Welcome to the explainer. You know that feeling, right? You eat a sandwich for lunch, and then, like an hour later, your stomach is rumbling again. Well, today we're going to get into the science of why that happens, and we're going to look at 12 awesome foods that keep you feeling full way, way longer than a simple slice of bread. Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big question. Why is it that bread, especially white bread, can feel so unsatisfying? You eat it, and then poof, the hunger is back almost immediately. What is going on there? The answer really starts to jump out at you when you just look at the numbers. On one hand, you've got a slice of white bread with a tiny 2.6 grams of protein and barely any fiber. But then, look at a single egg. It's packing more than double the protein. This one little comparison tells you almost everything you need to know about why some foods have staying power and others just don't. So that brings us right to what we're calling the bread dilemma. To figure out what we should be eating, we first got to understand what makes bread a bit of a problem when it comes to staying full. And here is the absolute core of it. Your body just tears through the simple carbs in white bread. It's like throwing newspaper on a fire. It burns bright and fast. But protein and fiber, oh, those are like big, heavy logs. They take a long, long time to break down, and that slow burn is the secret to feeling satisfied for hours. All right, so now that we know the problem, let's get into the solution. This is where we talk about the actual science of what makes you feel full. It's not magic, it's biology, and it all boils down to one really important idea. And that idea is satiety. It's just the fancy scientific word for that feeling of being full and content after a meal. The signal from your stomach to your brain that says, okay, we're good for now, you can stop eating. The goal of any good meal should be to maximize satiety. So how do you do that? Well, it turns out there's a simple formula. Think of it like a superhero team for fighting hunger. You've got protein and fat, which slow everything down. You've got fiber, which adds bulk and literally takes up more space. And you've got water, which adds volume without adding calories. When you get these three working together, you've basically cracked the code. Okay, let's kick things off with the heavy hitters, the protein all-stars. These are the foods that are just masters at slowing down digestion and keeping you satisfied for hours on end. We already saw that eggs are packed with protein, right? But it gets even better. It turns out eggs can actually lower your body's levels of a hormone called ghrelin. People call it the hunger hormone because when it's high, your brain is screaming, eat. Eggs help turn that volume down, which is just incredible. And it's not just eggs. Check out the dairy section. Greek yogurt gives you almost 15 grams of protein, and the fat in it helps with appetite too. And then there's cottage cheese with nearly 13 grams of protein. Studies have actually found it's just as good as eggs at making you feel full. Now let's talk about another protein champion, fatty fish. Things like salmon or sardines give you this amazing 1-2 punch. You get tons of protein, and you get those super healthy omega-3 fats. In fact, some research has found that fatty fish can make you feel even fuller than other lean proteins like chicken. And speaking of chicken, just look at this number. That is a massive 25.6 grams of pure, hunger-crushing protein in just one serving of lean chicken breast. That is exactly the kind of food that puts the brakes on digestion and sends those powerful I'm full signals to your brain. All right, time to switch gears. Protein is amazing, but it's not the only player in the game. Let's talk about the heroes that use a totally different but just as powerful strategy, adding sheer bulk and volume. Get this. A study from 2014 found that eating legumes, that's things like beans, lentils, and peas, made people feel 31% fuller than eating stuff like white bread. 31%. That is a huge feel-it-in-your-stomach kind of difference, all thanks to that amazing combo of fiber and protein. This chart really tells the story. A slice of white bread, it has practically zero fiber. Whole wheat is a little better, sure, but then look at oatmeal. It's in a completely different universe. That's because it's full of a special kind of fiber called beta-glucan, which basically forms a thick gel in your gut and slows everything way, way down. Okay, here's one that might surprise you. The good old potato. Turns out, boiled or baked potatoes are actually ranked super high on the satiety index. Why? They have this special protein inside them that seems to directly communicate with your body's hunger hormones, telling them to chill out. How cool is that? And finally, you have the foods that win just by taking up space. Vegetables and fruits are packed with water and fiber. filling you up with very few calories. Soups do the same thing with their high water content. And then you have nuts, which are kind of like the ultimate satiety food. They've got protein, fiber, and healthy fats. They hit all three keys at once. Okay, so we've covered a ton of science. But what does this all mean for your next meal? Let's bring it all together and talk about how you can actually use this information to build a better plate. So what's the big takeaway here? It's really not about taking things away. It's about adding the good stuff in. So instead of having just toast for breakfast, have toast with an egg on it. Instead of just a sandwich for lunch, add a big salad or a cup of bean soup. If you can remember to build your meals around protein, fiber, and volume, you're going to feel a world of difference. And that's our deep dive for today. So I'll leave you with this one question to chew on. What's one simple change, one little swap you could make this week to put all this amazing science to work for you? Maybe it's oatmeal instead of cereal, or an apple instead of crackers for a snack. Just think about it. Thanks so much for tuning in.